What's up, turtles? I wanted to make some cordage in the winter, and potentially it's not the most ideal, I guess, season of the year in the winter to be gathering organics to make cordage, but in my area it's possible. So what I did, put my stuff down at camp, started searching around looking for, I guess, ideal bark to help me make this cordage. And like I said, I'm going to be using the inner bark of the tulip tree, Lerodendron tulipifera. That stuff's present year round. It'd be really brittle sometimes and really starting to decompose. So there is an actual, I guess, condition of the material that I had to search for. And today I was presented with that too. Most of the stuff I was finding was just too brittle, or it was just, the tree's been dead too long and the stuff was just decomposing, and it really wasn't an ideal candidate for me to try to make cordage out of this. Now this is I guess a pretty quick way to process this bark by peeling just the innermost fibers off of the bark. I've seen it done where you just take the whole strip of bark off the tree, soak it, rub it against the tree, pull off the outer gray bark, stuff like that. But for sake of getting really quick cordage in the winter, it's a great resource. So I kept searching, found an ideal candidate, took it off, did some more investigating, making sure I felt comfortable with the condition of the fibers. And I have a little wrap with me. Like I said, I try to get the finest fibers I could by separating from the outer bark, and it looks the exact same as if you watched our one match fire in the snow with no tools. I took the bark pretty much the same exact way, and that's why this resource is so great, this tulip tree, and I use it a lot. And sort of challenge myself in other ways to stop using this resource because it's so plentiful and it's super versatile in what you can do with that one single tree. With that being said, I want to pull off a thinner section, off of this longer length I got. It's probably almost 6 feet maybe I have here. Basically thin it down, because this would make actual probably like a rope potentially. I'm going to use a reverse wrap cordage, but what I want to do now, like I said, I just want to get it down to a more manageable thickness section, if you will. This would be the outermost part of the section I took off, and the really coarse gray bark was out here. This is even the underside of that, and you can see there's literally layers to this. There's almost 3 layers right here. This layer wants to come off. There's a second layer, and then this really fine inner layer. And I'm not sure if I should be using all of this or just this fine, much finer inner bark. So maybe I'll experiment with that today. Maybe you won't see it on camera, but I'll come back and show you towards the end. But what I'm going to do for this portion of the video, I want to take the finest layer of this inner bark, and we'll see how that fares with making some cordage. Sometimes it's nice to work with nice long lengths like this because you're doing less splicing, or I guess, yeah, you will do less splicing, but it can sort of be a pain to keep it all situated and neat without destroying any of it. So I'm going to try to get some finer inner fibers, get a nice length of that. And I really like practicing and learning about these resources around me specifically. And on our videos, you really don't hear me say much about survival. I don't use that word. It's a really charged word right now, so I don't really use it. The reason why I like doing this stuff is basically, the way I view it is, I'm an animal on this planet. And what are the basic things I need as an animal to keep myself basically in good spirits and alive? It comes down to, shelter and fire and water and, learning the basics of keeping myself alive and warm and just happy to be alive. So that's why I like practicing these things, the knowledge I gain, and also just be out in the forest and enjoy myself. So now what I want to do is I want to even thin this up a little bit more. Try to keep it consistent. You want to try to keep it consistent as possible, basically width, so you're not really getting too much of a thin spot in your cordage that you're going to make. Try to keep this as consistent as possible. Not always possible, but you want to try your best. That's all you can ever ask. Okay. Figure out which one I want to use. Check that piece out. Check this piece out. Put this one aside. Let's go for this piece. There's a few rough spots in here. A little bit more extra bark that I don't want that in there. So there's a little bit of rough. You can see it's stronger or coarser texture. Take that out. So here's my length, double overed on itself. Give you an idea how much we can make off of this. And I'll clean up some of this end. Rip off some of this. It's got a little bit too thin. And before I start wrapping this, what I want to do is break this up a little bit. And because right now it looks like just one piece, but it's really made up of tons of little fibers. Not tons, but made up a lot of little fibers. So what I want to do is I want to go through and break this up and pull these fibers apart, because it will allow for a tighter sort of wrap on itself and make it stronger. And like I said, this winter time is not the ideal time, especially sitting out in the cold, not being warm, my hands being really dry, and a lot of moisture in the air. It's pretty dry. So all those factors really don't make this the most ideal condition to do this in. Lick my hands a little bit so I can actually get some grip on this now, going a lot quicker. And I'm just going to work my way this entire length and break this up. You can see what I'm doing and how it's opening up these fibers now as I'm sort of just rolling it in my hands. Not being too rough with it, because I don't think it's the best condition to be making cordage. But the whole sake of this video is finding basically workable, usable cordage in the winter. So that's what we're doing. I'm going to do this the entire length, and once I finish this, we'll start the actual reverse wrap process. See that plane? Look like 4 props on that puppy. Still trying to braid this and break it up a little bit better. All right, almost ready. Okay, I'm feeling pretty confident with this. So like the basic principles of making cordage, kind of half it on itself. And you want to stagger the lengths. You kind of want to half it to a degree and then stagger the ends. You know, here are the ends. I don't want to have them meet up. I want them to stagger like this, so that if I do splice a piece of material in here to add length to this, that these ends don't meet up, so the splices aren't in the same exact place, which is a weak point. Once I establish that, here's my starting point. I'm just going to twist this and twist until it gets super tight and wants to kink and bind on itself and pop up. There it is again. So back to what we were doing, might be that same plane flew back over us. Kind of slightly distracting, it's so loud, but okay, so I'm twisting this until I feel like it doesn't want to go anymore, super tight, and I put it together, bam, that rolled on itself. Basically once I'm there, I'm just going to do a couple wraps, sort of normal reverse wrap as you would, to give myself that little bit of starting point, just something to hold on to. So this method I'm going to use today is supposed to be a little bit quicker, and it is quicker actually if conditions dictate. So what I want to do basically is make sure these strands are separated, that they're not over top of each other. Here's my holding point. So I'm pinching down here, my left hand, see my thumb doing the work down there. And it helps sometimes to have your hands wet. And basically I'm going to take this, hold this, and start rolling this on itself. Twisting that, trying to get as tight as I can. And as I roll, move forward a little bit, hold it, push it back down, roll, hold. Okay? And once I feel confident I have a decent enough section, let me say it's about 4 inches, maybe 10 centimeters. I'm going to hold that here, put this back here and hold it with this hand, keeping the tension on this, move my other strand and do the same thing. Second strand's in my hand, rolling that up now. And the tighter you do this and the more tension it's under, and you keep it under tension as best you can, the stronger in theory it should be. Let's see. It's pretty good. Okay, so once I get that at a good stopping point, and roughly about the same length as the first one I twisted, I'm going to hold this again, hold that tension, pull my second one out now in my right hand, hold it, spread these two out, keep them away from each other, and keep them under tension. And as I do this, use my left hand now, and then roll them together. Keep it under tension. It's at about 9 centimeters already. And do the same process. Make sure where I pick up, where I ended, I want to make sure I give that a little twist and make sure that's sitting good on itself, because I have the tendency to let that get a little bit loose when I start it again the second time. So I just make sure, give it a couple rolls to tighten those up, pinch it, and then start the process over again. And keep in mind that everything I do on camera takes so much longer because I'm explaining it. I'm talking through it. So just keep in mind, if you're going to try this for yourself, you can do this so much faster usually than when I'm doing it on camera. Once you get in a groove, and you're not talking, trying to explain it, this is still a nice activity to sit around with some friends, do it, and, shoot the breeze, if you will. But you can get in a nice groove and start making this stuff pretty quick. Again, keep them under tension. Just wasn't happy with the way it was rolling on my leg and the condition of the material, so I kind of just switched from that initial method I was showing you, which is just more of the traditional, I guess. Take that back. I'm not saying traditional, but the method of just holding it sort of floating in the air, twisting it away from you underneath. Alright, I'm at one of my ends, and yeah, what the heck. I'll splice in a little bit. Just breaking up some of the additional length for the splice. This feels a little bit coarser than the stuff I was using, but see how it goes. Here's the tail end of that splice I just put in there. Definitely noticeably thicker right there where the splice was. But that's really all there is to it for putting a splice in there. Basically just wrap it around it and continue going on. And through the tension of twisting the fibers and then twisting again, the wrap on the second strand, it makes it a pretty strong joinery, if you will. All right, I'm gonna nearly call this good. Figure out some way to test the strength of this besides just trying to rip it apart like Hawk. All right, I'm calling that good. There's my length. It's about 2 feet, roughly. Didn't take long at all. Let me figure out a way to test this strength, and we'll test it and try to break it. Okay, so try to figure out maybe one way to test this besides just trying to break it. And first, before I do that, I want to cut off the little tail end of that splice I put in there just to make it a little bit cleaner. Booda boop, bada bam. Wrap this around the tree. Put my weight on it, lean back, see what happens. And see where it broke. Not the strongest, not the strongest. I knew there were some weak spots in there that wasn't as tight. The splice held, looks like it was down, yeah, it was down towards the beginning. Down towards the beginning where it broke. Now this was the super fine, the finest, I guess, the inner strands of the bark that I took apart. So maybe I'll come back and test that and try different sections of the bark. Now let me try, this feels like a lot stronger section down here. Let me try to break this just the old-fashioned way. So you saw that last strand break pretty darn easy, and that was just the finest sort of section or layer of that bark I could get. So I wasn't happy with that strength-wise, and I wasn't surprised that broke on me that easy. But what you see here is probably, I think it might be the outermost section of bark. Maybe one other layer. Definitely coarser, definitely a much coarser feel than this original, which I have right here. Original here. And this is almost probably twice as thick, so granted it should be that much stronger, but you can just maybe see it too. But this is a much coarser because of the different, I guess, consistency of bark that I used for this as opposed to the original, which broke super easy. So what I'm gonna do is just finish this, just do a little bit more wrapping with this, and then go try to break it again. Our initial idea for trying to break this was I was gonna teach my brother the art of piano wire. So I can already feel it's that much coarser than the original, how it doesn't want to really make an easy knot as the other one did, but it is thicker, so I guess I'll keep that in mind too. Okay. Any predictions? So it's about twice as thick and coarser material, so all my weight. Oh yeah, all right, well that didn't break at all. Let's try the old-fashioned way. Ah! Much stronger. Cool, well, you know, I'm pretty impressed. Pretty impressed with how strong, you know, this is, considering. I hope the video was helpful, shed some light on, you know, some of the resources that you see a lot in Pennsylvania. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. Till the next video, it's Krik, Black Owl. Later, turtles.